Okay, Om Gyan Timida Jana Jana Savakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharine Nirvase Sunyavadi Astyatya Devi Satarine Vanchakalpatarubhischa Viva Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we thank you to all the devotees who came online today. Today is, for most of the world, we're honoring Srila Prabhupada in what we understand is a bittersweet ceremony, the disappearance of His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, from our view in this level of material existence. For a great soul, appearance and disappearance are the same. They appear on behalf of the Lord in order to spread the mercy of the Lord in the form of pure devotional service, and especially in this age to the fallen conditioned souls, by the way of the extreme mercy and process given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Harinam Sankirtan, for the glorification of the Lord by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So it's not a day for celebration, it's a day for honoring. When Srila Prabhupada left the world, it was really a devastation on the whole society and for others also who knew Srila Prabhupada. It was expected, but when great souls leave, although we expect it to happen, when it happens, it's unexpected. In other words, we anticipate, but at the same time, we know that it just can't possibly happen, but it does. And as Krishna has his ways are mysterious. He gave us the association of one of his internal associates in the spiritual world, his divine grace. And by his same mercy, he pulled that association away. For Srila Prabhupada, appearance and disappearance are no difference. He reasons are ill who say that Vaishnavas die when thou are living still and sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and in living spread the holy name around. So one who thinks that a Vaishnav dies is wrong. Vaishnavas never die because they never live in the material realm. Therefore, they never take birth and they never die. Although they appear in a particular body in order to relate to us on the level of our existence, they never touch the material world. And when the time is up, they disappear. They're transcendental before they come, while they're here, and when they leave, their disappearance is not part of the material show. It's orchestrated by the Lord himself. Srila Prabhupada's contribution to the world is volumes and volumes of eulogies, glorifications, and the most amazing activities, teachings, which have changed the whole face of the world, changed the hearts and minds of everyone. Many have perfected the lives of millions and millions of people. Prabhupada's short stay, at least in his role as the founder Acharya, was only 11 years. from 1966 to 1977. In those 11 years, he traveled around the world 14 times. He opened more than 108 temples, along with farm communities, schools, restaurants, and smaller preaching facilities, which we call preaching centers. He met with many distinguished people around the world who are popular in the material realm: poets, artists, architects, songwriters, actors, politicians, people from all of the realms of material existence. Prabhupada met somehow without some outstanding. Prabhupada never changed the philosophy in order to patronize other people's ideas or views or their sentimentalities. Prabhupada presented, this is the words of Krishna coming from Bhagavad Gita. I'm simply explaining what Krishna has told in Bhagavad Gita so you will understand it. And he taught one thing constantly, that you are the eternal servant of Krishna. You can never be anything else but the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And your only occupation is loving devotional service to that Supreme Lord, whether you are in the spiritual world, in the material world, or whatever you are, your occupation remains the same. Prabhupada uncovered the treasure of the Vedic culture and taught devotees how to live, how to speak, how to act, how to think, how to walk, how to write. He was like a father, a teacher, a great sage, at the same time, a very expert personality in every area that he talked about. Talked about politics, sociology, architecture, ecology, chemistry, ordinary events. Talked about Krishna. He wrote more than 100, almost 100 books, and which were translated into many, many languages, more than 75 languages around, 92 languages, 92 languages around the world, and they're still being translated in more and more languages. His books went to places where they were banned, such as in communist countries, in very reactionary Islamic countries, and places that no Vaishnav could actually go there and be safe. The Srila Prabhupada's books went everywhere. They went inside jails, transformed people who were criminals into people who were actually kind-hearted Vaishnavas. Prabhupada touched the minds of so many people by his personality, by his words, by everything he did. And he sacrificed his own personal health and his own personal convenience. He dedicated every moment of his life to spreading Krishna consciousness. From the time he met his spiritual master in 1922 in Calcutta, he began his service to his spiritual master, planning how to execute Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's desire to spread Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada spent 40 years trying to do that in India. And finally, he understood the instructions of the spiritual master was take this to the West. And in 1965, he made that famous journey across 2 oceans, 38 days, seasicknesses, 2 heart attacks, without any association of other Vaishnavas, hardly any kind of, diet that would facilitate his normal diet. it was he sacrificed everything on behalf of us, the conditioned souls in this material world. He was met with so many obstacles, but he never gave up. He always simply depended on Krishna, and Krishna's dependence. Krishna was always there to keep Prabhupada moving in the direction of spreading Krishna consciousness everywhere. Of course, we are now remembering Prabhupada on the day of his disappearance, but we should also understand that great souls, they don't disappear, they become unmanifested, and their instructions become the life and soul of the followers. In other words, some people who take shelter of great souls, when the person leaves the material world, they go down. They can't live without that person. They're mostly like children who are so dependent on the presence of their parents that they cannot go on in their life's work. But then there are the grown-up children, the sons and daughters who take the instructions of their parents and make them the focus of their life's work. And that's what many devotees have done. And we know that Srila Prabhupada is personally present. He also told us how we could experience his presence after he gone. He said, read my books. If you want to associate with me, I am in my books. His books, he said, are my transcendental ecstasies. My books are actually the words of Krishna, teaching you how you should live in devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's never been a greater personality in the history of spirituality that did so much in such a short time. In 11 years, he did, it was phenomenal. And what makes it even more miraculous or incredibly hard to understand or impossible to believe is he started at the age of 70 years old. I'm meeting people today who are 70 and over, and they're slowing down. They're not doing, even devotees, and they're struggling with their physical bodies. And people in general, when they're at that age, they don't plan on opening up a new chapter in their life. But Srila Prabhupada opened up not only a chapter, he opened up an encyclopedia of spiritual activities which will continue to spread around the world. Prabhupada said, my books will be the law books for the next 10,000 years. That means any topic on spirituality you want to understand, you can find in Srila Prabhupada's books, particularly his Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, along with his other works, Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a project that's going on now. It's out of Calcutta, headed by some senior Prabhupada disciples called Bhaktivedanta Research Center. And they're collecting rare manuscripts from the acharyas who have gone before Prabhupada, such as Bhakti Siddhanta, Bhakti Vinod, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and the writings of the Goswamis. A lot of them are still being uncovered. And the purpose of this project, which is quite noble and glorious, is to preserve the writings, all of these great acharyas, and keep them in a museum for the reference of everyone from time immemorial about the history of Vaishnava culture, Vaishnava philosophy, pure devotional service. But one of the main benefits of this whole thing, this will give authority and credibility to everything Prabhupada says, because by referencing the writings of the previous acharyas, we can see how Srila Prabhupada presented his mission along with the philosophy which fueled the mission. And so therefore, when he says, my books will be the law books for 10,000 years, we will be able to authoritize that through the writings of the great souls. And then even great scholars will accept Srila Prabhupada's writings as being foundational to pure spiritual philosophy. So the glories of Srila Prabhupada are impossible to delineate, to mention. There are many stories, there are many personal experiences that devotees have very deeply. We were just talking today. I was recalling one experience that I had, not experience, but it was a message I received many years ago from a very senior Prabhupada disciple who told me, he said there was another Prabhupada disciple. He was walking in a very wooded area by himself chanting. And then he happened to notice this unusual craft, and it was a spacecraft. It was an alien spacecraft that had landed in the forest area. As soon as he saw it, he lost control of his own motions, and he was being pulled into the spacecraft by this energy. When he was pulled into it, he went inside, and there were the aliens. And they had a picture of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, inside of their spacecraft. And they said to this devotee, your teacher, your spiritual master, is the greatest spiritual person ever on the planet. And his teachings will be the foundation for world spiritual conquest. They glorified Prabhupada in so many ways. I don't remember the name of the devotee because I heard this more than 15, 20 years ago. It's been a while. I'm sorry I can't give more evidence than that, but I remember hearing this story clearly. So Srila Prabhupada is not only known on this planet, but throughout all of the universes. His teachings, his books, everything he does. So if we really want to make advancement in spiritual life, we have to keep Prabhupada foremost in our receiving transcendental knowledge, especially his Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar Devotion, Sri Upanishads, Chaitanya Charitamrita. These books cannot be exhausted in terms of the meanings that they can provide for us, even if we were to live hundreds of lifetimes. So Srila Prabhupada's greatest contribution, aside from his personal presence, was his books. And he said that many times. So we should read his books, we should study his books, we should understand how to apply the books in our life. We should inquire further into the teachings of the books. And we should also distribute the books to those persons who haven't had a chance to come to Krishna consciousness. So there is many stories. I'll tell one particular story, which is one of my favorite stories, because it illustrates a very important spiritual point. Srila Prabhupada had at least 3 or 4 different personal servants during the time he was here. And one personal servant we all know was Shrutakirti. Shrutakirti was with Prabhupada from 1974 to around the end of 1976. And he would travel with Srila Prabhupada on the airplane. And when Prabhupada would be coming into a particular city, the devotees in the local temple would take everyone out of the temple and they all would greet Prabhupada at the airport with kirtan. Sometimes they would bring all the instruments and they would just take over the whole airport and have a kirtan. So one such event was happening. Prabhupada was coming, flying in, and Shruti Kirti was with him. And as Prabhupada got off the plane, the kirtan just burst into a tumultuous, ecstatic expression, and devotees went wild when they saw Prabhupada. They were just jumping and chanting and rolling on the ground. People were losing their emotional composure. People were crying, literally crying, just seeing Srila Prabhupada. Tears of great happiness. And it was quite a display of devotion and emotion. Shruti Kirti is observing this and he's thinking about it. So finally, Prabhupada goes back to his place where he stays. And then Shruti Kirti, this was early in the morning, so Prabhupada would always he'd take his breakfast, and after breakfast, he would usually take a little rest, and after rest, he would get his massage. So Shruti Kirti would be massaging Srila Prabhupada. So he was thinking about what he saw in the airport, his great brothers and god sisters, how they greeted Srila Prabhupada. And so he said to Srila Prabhupada, he had been thinking, Srila Prabhupada, I can see all of my god brothers and god sisters, they have so much love for you, but I don't feel like that. Prabhupada remained quiet, didn't say anything. And Shruti Kirti just went on with the massage. Finally, it was time for Prabhupada's lunch, so he made all the arrangements to get the lunch. But meanwhile, Prabhupada took his bath, changed clothes, and got ready for prasad. Prabhupada would always take prasadam alone unless there were special guests. And he would always meditate on Krishna in the form of prasadam. So Prabhupada had just finished his prasadam, and now Prabhupada had a bell, so he rang his bell. Shruti Kirti comes in, pays his obeisances. And Prabhupada looks at him and says, do you like your service? And Shruti Kirti said, oh yes, Prabhupada, very much so. Prabhupada said that is love. Love means to serve. So Prabhupada wanted to make it clear that, of course, chanting, dancing, and greeting the spiritual master is also an expression of devotion. But the real manifestation comes in the form of service. When we engage in practical devotional service to the spiritual master, by emphasizing the teachings that he gave us, along with the mission he gave us, such as spreading Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada wanted to make that point. To love means to serve. To love means to cooperate. Together to serve the spiritual master, serve Krishna. So that illustrates what is actually Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means our own mind and senses for something that is connected with us, which we think will bring us happiness. But real service is to serve Krishna by serving the instructions of the spiritual master. And the more we can do that, the more we connect with Krishna and the spiritual master. And the more we are in their association, if you're in the association of the Supreme Lord, you are transcendental to everything material, and you are feeling satisfied and happy. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, and we can go on for questions for another half hour.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for talking about Srila Prabhupada. It's so heart-melting hearing from you, and all glories to all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada that they are still holding the fort in, when Srila Prabhupada left the world, and they're managing and passing on the knowledge and giving us all the shelter. So thank you ever so much. Really heartfelt gratitude to all of you. And devotees, if you have any question, comments, realization, on the Maharaj's talk on Srila Prabhupada, please share it, and please show your camera as well, if you can keep your cameras on. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Scarlett Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to you, and all glories to all of you devotees. I have a question. Because I try to read as much as I can to see his instruction and so on. I yet not coming across that instruction, that how did Prabhupada saw the way we should do in the country, in the city. Is it important to follow the law of the country and follow the law and order of city, or not, for us as devotee, as Vaishnava? We don't need to follow it. We do our own. We don't care about the country's law and the city's law and order.
Well, the execution of devotional service doesn't conflict with the local laws that are in the area. We follow the basic laws. The Prabhupada never encourages us to go against the laws, but he did say that if you're engaged in devotional service, you're transcendental to everything material. But still, in order to it's not that we willingly go against the laws of the land. There's no need to do that. We follow the basic laws and just execute our devotional service. And it's not, he didn't encourage us to, but he basically said, if you listen to his lectures, that the whole society is upside down. The leaders are misleaders, and they're only cheating the people, and people are being cheated all the time, and the leaders are not qualified to lead. But still, he didn't encourage devotees to go against the laws.
Thank you.
But when it came to Harinam Sankirtan, for instance, in Australia many years ago, in the early 1970s, they gave us a lot of restrictions. In fact, they tried to stop us. But Prabhupada kept pushing us. No, you continue to go out and you can chant even in jail. And so devotees were going out, getting arrested and getting bailed out, getting arrested and getting bailed out. And finally, we got more and more support from the local people. And finally, they stopped arresting us and gave us permission to have Harinam Sankirtan. when we had the case, we had a few cases that tried to destroy our movement by making our movement look like some kind of cult that was brainwashing people. Prabhupada spoke strongly against that and told us how we should defend ourselves in court. And we did. And we won a landmark decision on March 18th, 1977, when the Supreme Court of New York State in the United States declared our movement to be a bona fide spiritual movement that dated back thousands and thousands of years. Prabhupada said, now my movement has become successful. We are being recognized by the society. So when it came to Harinam Sankirtan and our book distribution, many times we did not follow the basic principles that the laws laid down, but and so we got arrested, we put in jail, we got out, and we did the same thing again. Because they were illegal, we have a right to distribute general. That's the Constitution of the United States of America, freedom of religion. And when it came to Sankirtan, we followed the rules, such as you can't block the streets when you go down Harinam Sankirtan. You have to leave way for the passengers, the pedestrians to walk. And so we had to follow those rules. But generally, we didn't stop our Sankirtan, we didn't stop our book distribution, even though they tried to stop us in many places. And that's the only time we ever went against the so-called laws, which these were unfair laws anyway. They were discriminating laws. Many of them were put in place just to stop us. But general laws we follow.
That I understand, to practice spirituality like Sankirtan, that I understand, that we don't really need to do it, but I'm thinking about another kind of following the law, like for instance, some countries, they pay taxes and they have to show everything that they use money for, and so on and so on. For instance, for me, I don't have any money, and the little I get, I have to pay some taxes, and so on and so on. This is the law. Does it mean that I shouldn't follow when it comes to these things? I can understand when it comes to the spiritual practicing, to Sankirtan, to this I understand. But I thought about another way of, another thing in law. That's what I meant. Thank you.
Thank you, Scarlett Mataji. Any other questions? Yes, Shridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Sati Baba. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada was an expert, completely expert in preaching. He knew how to be heavy, how to be light, how to talk to which person in which way, how to preach Krishna consciousness exactly according to the person, and so on. We are not, of course, anywhere expert or anything. So what guidelines at least we should keep in mind when preaching, because we may suddenly become very heavy and that may not be appropriate, or we may be too light and that may also not be appropriate. So how do we know how to preach in such a way that we are most effective?
One, you should try to study your audience and see what is the nature of the audience. That's one thing. Two, to prepare yourself, if you have a public talk to give. And three, you can, you should, Prabhupada said, you should read the philosophy and understand how to present it in your own words, according to time, place, and candidate. And you can also repeat Prabhupada accordingly.
Thank you so much.
And as you practice, you start to learn. Don't try to speak above your realizations.
Right, right. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Places you can quote Prabhupada, but when it comes to some of the leelas, you don't want to get deep into these esoteric leelas and just to impress the audience, you know. And learn how to back up everything you say with either Shastra or from Guru.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. I made notes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Devi Mataji. Namrata Mataji, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Satyabhama Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the Damodar month. All glories to you. My question is about tolerance of words. So I'll just give you an example and then I'll ask my question. So I was just recently watching a cricket match. So there was a player. So the winning team, the losing team was a little bit frustrated, and the bowler he abused the batsman. So there is in the cricket world, there's one batsman who is very much known for his tolerance. So I was just thinking that how should we limit our tolerance when it comes to words? If action is there, okay, we should make defense or work according to the situation. But when it comes to words, how much tolerance we should keep or judge?
I think it depends primarily on the circumstance. I mean, you can't just apply a carte blanche idea and expect to, but you should use your words that are appropriate in the situation to get your point across. If it requires to say something, then say something in a pleasant way, or without compromising the principle that you're trying to communicate. Speak with confidence, but at the same time, be sensitive to the audience that you're speaking to. This is an art that comes by way of experience. It develops by way of experience. Sometimes you don't say anything, and sometimes you have to say something in order to rectify the situation or to help give an understanding of help to protect other people who are being victimized in the wrong way. So yeah, it takes tolerance. If you practice tolerance, you get intelligence on how to respond. But those who are intolerant, they usually react before they think. And then therefore, they're in a good position to commit offenses or make mistakes. So learn how to hear nicely and then understand what you're hearing and then respond accordingly. But always be respectful to the audience, to the person you're speaking to. If you speak with respect, that opens up communications. As soon as respect is lost, then the words get minimized and the whole thing centers around the mood rather than what is being said. Or the wrong mood. It's practice.
So Guru Maharaj,
You'll
if
see.
somebody, okay. Yes, please continue, Guru.
You see in a particular situation where many people are involved, different people may react differently to the same situation. But as a Vaishnava, we should try to make the situation better and not worsen the situation. I mean, Srila Prabhupada could be very fiery, and he could really blast someone, but he did it with sensitivity at the same time. In other words, the person, he didn't attack the person, he attacked the ignorance.
So for instance, Guru Maharaj, if somebody is abusing or blaspheming a devotee, we should react or we should not react. I mean, depending upon the situation or the mentality of the person who is saying, we should keep quiet or we should speak up.
It says there's three possible reactions to that. One, you should defeat the offender. And it says you should cut out his tongue, but that's a little strong. You should defeat the offender. Or if you can't do that, you should give up your life. And if you can't do that, you should immediately go away. That's Shastra. Three possible choices. Defeat the person, give up your own life, or go away. Generally, devotees go away. Or the downside, it's not a good idea to give up your life, because if you're a Brahmin, you'll be guilty of killing a Brahmin. So that's not recommended.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
You have your
Hare
choice.
Krishna.
But one has to react when others are being minimized or offended. Otherwise, if you remain quiet and you sit there and listen to it, you become implicated in this, in the reaction also.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thanks, Namrata Mataji. Sridevi Mataji, do you have a previous hands or do you have a new question? No question. Scarlett Mataji, do you have a question or?
Yes,
okay.
I have heard Srila Prabhupada's lecture very much, many. One of them, he's having a conversation with a priest. And I have read so many also that he encourages Muslim and Christian to practice their own. He said, just practice in your religion. And then he has this conversation with the priest, that the priest all the time try to convince that it's okay to eat meat because it has some. He tried in many ways. He tried to say it's okay to eat meat, and Srila Prabhupada all the time try to very patiently try to explain for him. What I still not understanding is why do then to practice. I was born in Muslim religion, Muslim family, Muslim country, and in that religion there is nowhere that they say you shouldn't eat meat. And they do many other things that I have learned by reading the Srila Prabhupada's books that you shouldn't do. So why? How come still he?
Why? The question is why? Why is because spiritual life means never to cause any harm to any living entity.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's the basic principle. And everything we eat as Vaishnavas, we offer to Krishna, where Krishna will not accept food based on slaughter.
Exactly.
So the principle is kindness to other living entities. So these other traditions, their teachings have been altered from their inception through the history by other persons who have come down in the line of their teachings. But in our teachings, we follow it very strictly and it's not been altered. So, yeah. So there's different levels of spiritual practice, but that doesn't condone the fact that people are killing in the name of religion. Buddha came to stop that. And if you want to go into the details, a living entity can live nicely and healthily without eating food based on slaughtering other living entities.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's much healthier. Okay. All right, we're going to have to move on because I only have about 9 minutes left before I have to close the thing. We got 2 more questions here.
Yeah, we can, thanks, Kalik Mataji. Prem Kishori Mataji, you have a question?
Mataji, Hare Krishna, I think Sukhawa Mataji was before me.
I didn't notice. Sukhawa Mataji, her hand is not.
She
It's
did
fine.
have.
Good Mataji is getting late, so I will let it go. I can ask later on as well. No problem. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Lord Space. Mataji, you can go ahead.
I feel guilty. Anyway, Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Goes to Prabhupada, goes to you. Thank you so much for such nice pastimes in the class. Maharaj, my class is more, my question is more of an internal mood that, okay, and please excuse me if I'm not framing my question right. Okay, I have this tendency to set up the goals and write them down and try to catch them like, okay, I'm going to do these services. Okay, but at the end of the day, I think I see that in person at 20%, and then the guilt takes over, and then it takes over, and then for a certain number of days, the guilt becomes more strong than the mood of the service. So, for example, for Damodar month, there were some things which I wanted to do. Most of the things I am able to do by your mercy, but one thing which I have not been able to do is to do the arti on time every day because of the work schedule or something here and there. But I do. Sometimes it's 9 o'clock in the night. But then there's this guilt that, okay, I didn't do, and then it takes over, and it becomes a big mountain. I don't know if anyone else can resonate with what I'm saying, but how do we deal with it. I heard your class in mind control. You said the best way to control the mind is to neglect its dictation. Right? I don't know. Is he there?
Yes,
You're
Maharaj
talking
is
about,
there.
you're talking about the Vrata for Damodar, you mean offering the lamp? Is that it?
That's an example. There are so many situations. That is one example.
Oh, I
Because
see. You made a whole list of the things you want to follow, but because of certain situations and time periods and so many other things, you can't do all of them, right?
yes, that is this month, but in general, in life, it goes on. Yes, Maharaj, Guru Maharaj.
Well, devotees struggle with that too. So there's things you really want to do, and there's things that, you put things in 4 categories: essentials, importance, non-essential, not important. So if you put all of your activities in one of these 4 categories, so essential is you have to chant Hare Krishna, you have to be around, have to follow the 4 regular principles. Important is we have to read. Sometimes we miss reading, but it's in the category of important. Non-essentials is certain services we can do or we don't do. It doesn't matter if we do it or we don't do it. And the last one is there's things that we just don't need to do at all. We just waste time with. Maybe it's a little bit of our own fantasy that we want to do these things. So sit down, you do a little, brainstorming and look at your day. I know your day is different every day, but sometimes you work all night and sometimes you work during the day. So you have to adjust your schedule according to your work. So, at the beginning of your activities throughout the day, see what you write down with the other, it's no loss. But the essentials cannot be, bypassed or pushed to the side. If you make vows and other promises, you have to see how much it is actually going to impact upon your devotional service if you don't do it. So devotional service is practical. Many times we want to do more things than time allows. But if you follow the first 2 categories, what is essential, what is important, and make sure you always do that, then you can build on that. And from there, you can increase into other areas.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Never neglect your rounds, never neglect reading. Look for opportunities to associate with devotees. You have to go to programs every once in a while, occasionally, or even more so, because it's spiritually healthy to associate with other devotees in the process of hearing and chanting and worshiping. That's very important.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj, thank you. This is helpful. I'm going to take a note and implement, and then some point get back and say working, not working, or what's not working. And I read the how old is Krishna in Damodar Leela? He's around 3 years old. That. I have one more question, but I can email it to you. I'll give it to Srimati. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Srimati Mataji, if you can be about only 3 or 4 minutes left here.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yes, thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for today's class. And actually, my question is from yesterday's class about leadership. So you were talking about leadership qualities yesterday, and So I just have a question, like how the followers are, suppose if any congregation, the leader is there, and how the members of that particular congregation should behave. Like, so we are not any small children following a teacher. So we also have ideas and we also want to implement them. But do we have to follow always the leader's thoughts and leader's agenda? Or can we talk to them, or can we raise our voices, or we can say that can we put on our ideas before them? And also,
Yeah.
most of the time, if we do also, they get ignored. So I'm just in a confusion, like what's happening and how to behave. And so when we, I feel like I'm in trouble. I'll get into trouble if I talk too much. Many thoughts going on, Guru Maharaj. So just want to know your.
The business of the leaders to lead, and it's also business of the leaders to see how the followers are following, and also to open up opportunities where those who are following can express themselves, either with doubts or questions. That's the duty of the leader. You shouldn't simply lead, oh, I'm a leader, you have to follow me. That's just arrogance. So a leader has to have certain characteristics, and that is that he has to be observant to who he's leading, and see how they're responding to his leadership, moving them forward accordingly, answering their questions, dealing with their problems. All of that has to come from the leader like that. If that's not there, then communication starts to somewhat break down, and the followers don't want to follow completely. So the responsibility falls upon the leaders, and if the followers should be respectful for the leaders, and if they do have questions or concerns that are different from the leader, they can humbly, and I use that word with emphasis, humbly present their own ideas with the idea of understanding. The understanding would be is, well, maybe this could be done in this way rather than what is being expressed as the way to do it. In other words, this is Krishna consciousness. It's not a dictatorship. Everybody has their free will, but there is a protocol by which things get done. And that is communication has to be open. And it has to be done with respects and I'm talking from the ideal platform. When it's not ideal, things break down and people remain somewhat secret about what they want to do and don't follow the leader. So the leaders have to be able to open up the followers by giving them a chance to observing them and see how they can express themselves also. So I can't dealing with a specific situation really depends on the quality of the leader and the attitude of the followers and what the nature of the situation is. But the most important thing is that everything should be done in a respectful way. Prabhupada says the leaders should be very affectionate to the followers, and the followers should be very obedient to the leaders.
The leaders are affectionate until they want their work done. Otherwise, after that, they don't care. It's like that sometimes.
I can't say anything. I don't really know how it's being done. I just know what we do. I try to listen to people and not simply say, well, this is the way you have to follow. I explain what I believe is right.
Yes.
And I open to suggestions or even comments or even corrections if it's done with intelligence.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Yeah. Yeah, definitely it helps, Guru Maharaj. Thank you.
This find some ways to communicate your feelings in such a way that you get the attention of the leaders.
Mm. Yes, Gurumaharaj.
And
Thank you.
in a general discussion, we can speak about this, how leaders should be and how followers should be. And that way these ideas circulate around and it's not just simply one way.
Thank you, Gurumaharaj. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Prabhupada
Srimati.
put out so many statements on leadership. He talks from the ideal platform. And so we may not be up onto ideal, but we should be patient and tolerant with each other and try to work together, knowing that there's a higher principle that we're trying to achieve, and that is to please the Lord, to please the spiritual master. So cooperation has to be there.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah, you mentioned this point a lot, many times, and I always remember this while behaving. Yeah, yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for your guidance.
Yeah. Don't lose respect. As soon as you lose respect for each other, then things break, you know.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah.
I have a quick announcement. It'll come out in writing very soon, but we have already designated next year's disciple retreat date and place. So that'll be, I'll tell you right now where it is and when it is. It's going to be on Easter weekend, which is 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th of April. And it's at the New Vrindavan community in West Virginia, USA.
Hari Bol.
All by the
Wow.
Yeah.
Hari Hari.
Such a great news, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, so block those dates. No excuses.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
I'm giving it 5 months ahead of time. Maybe even more. And that's like, about 6 months.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
So yeah, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, which is a 4-day weekend. And New Vrindavan is excited to host us. And they have wonderful facilities. We'll come out with all the details in the next few days. And then we'll put together the whole protocol in order to organize everything. And gradually you'll get more and more information about the whole program.
Okay, thank you. Such a great news. Thank you, Maharaj, for sharing. Now we all will book our tickets first.
Yes, Mataji.
You have to be kind to the Americans. We've been not so kind to them.
Okay.
Okay,
So, yeah.
Because someone's going to come and drag me out of my room in about 1 minute, so I better leave. So thank you very much, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Try to remember Prabhupada on this day. Read about Srila Prabhupada, talk about Srila Prabhupada. Just keep Prabhupada consciousness throughout the whole day. And Prabhupada's consciousness is Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for your time and the talk on Srila Prabhupada. Jai, all glories.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Guru Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Sri Candramauli.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
We got all of you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.